Hey, good morning, class. What we're going to talk about today is okay. Let me adjust my camera here just a bit because my OCD is kicking in, and if I don't get it tilted just right, okay. What we're going to be talking today is about pro football. Okay, and I want to tell you exactly what it takes to be a professional athlete and how you become a professional athlete and the qualities and skills it takes to be a world-class professional athlete. Now, you can probably see enough of me from the camera to realize I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm not a professional athlete. I've never been a professional athlete. And barring the fact that there's some sort of horrendous catastrophe in the professional sports world, I don't know anything about it. I'm never going to be a professional athlete. But you know who does know about being a professional athlete and playing in the NFL? Tom Brady. You know what Tom Brady said? Tom Brady said every quarterback can throw a ball, every running back can run, every receiver is fast, but the mental toughness that you talk about translates into competitiveness. Okay? You probably believe Tom Brady when he says something, right? I would. He's won a bunch of Super Bowls. I mean, he may have cheated, but let's not get into that right now. There may be some Patriot fans that are going to be upset with me saying that. So what I did there was cite evidence from an expert, okay? I can't talk about being a competitive NFL player. Most people can't, but we can quote or cite people who are experts on something, like Tom Brady is on playing in the NFL. So what we're going to do today is talk about evidence. We use evidence for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, we use it for clarity. Okay, make things clearer. We use it for credibility. All right? We use it for accuracy. We use it for currency to make sure we're up to date. And then we use it for vividness. It keeps things real, makes things more gives us a better picture of things. Okay? So rather than you saying, oh, I don't know, maybe 40%, if you've got a source, okay, that says it's exactly 47%, that gives you more clarity, credibility, accuracy, currency, and vividness. Okay? Now, we use evidence on two occasions. Number one is when the speaker has low ethos. Remember, we've talked about ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is the ability to persuade based on the speaker's individual credibility. All right? We also know from a ton of research over the last 70 years that audience attitude changes last longer if the ideas are tied specifically to an individual with high credibility. Okay? So if I find somebody that's well-liked in the state of South Carolina, former Governor Nikki Haley, say, for instance, a lot of people in this state like her. If I can tie what I'm trying to tell you to something Nikki Haley has said in the past, then people will like that. Will Muschamp, I don't like him, but a lot of people in South Carolina do. I'm an Auburn fan. I don't have to like him. If I could say something about football and I can tie that to Will Muschamp, and give clarity, credibility, accuracy, currency, and vividness, people will not remember Vic McInnes, but they will remember Will Muschamp, okay? So we do it to when the speaker has low credibility to improve their credibility, and we also do it in order to sustain an attitude change over a longer period of time, okay? All right, so let's talk about how to use evidence. First thing you do, cite qualifications. Okay, so if I'm talking about a medical topic and I cite the Mayo Clinic, everybody knows what the Mayo Clinic is and they have very high regard. That's fine. But if I was to cite Lancet, now nobody knows what Lancet is, or very few people do. It's actually the Journal of the British Medical Association. All right? So you're going to want to say what the qualifications are. If I cite Bob Smith, nobody's really going to care. Nobody's going to listen. But I say Bob Smith, who is a federal circuit court judge, that lends more credibility and more weight to my evidence. Okay? With your evidence, be specific. All right? Be specific. Don't say most American families. Say 62% of American families. Okay, don't say very few. You know, in our just the midterm elections that were held just a couple of weeks ago, don't say few 18 to 24-year-olds voted. Say only 9% of the voters were 18 to 24 years old. Be specific, and then use something that's unfamiliar. All right. We've all heard that smoking is going to give you lung cancer. Smoking is going to give you a heart attack. Smoking is going to have all these things. A couple of years ago, though, the state of Florida put up a bunch of billboards all over the state that said, if you smoke 2 packs a day in 2 years, you could buy a new boat, a new bass boat. Okay. Suddenly, that's new evidence. That's something we've never heard before. Is it anything no, but it is new. It is something documentable. It is evidence, and it's something we've never heard before. Okay, if you're going to come back with the same old statistics that everybody's heard already, it's not going to have any impact. So find new evidence that people haven't heard before. All right? So everybody got that? Cite the qualifications of your source. Be specific with your evidence, and use unfamiliar evidence. Okay, so let's talk about types of evidence. All right? First is the opinion of others. Okay, need you to be very careful about the opinions of the others, because you need to focus on expert opinions. And this goes back to what we just talked about, and you need to be able to cite the qualifications of that expert. Okay? The other types of opinions are what we would call public opinion. Now, public opinion, I need you to understand, and the way we normally see those, and we've been seeing a ton of those over the last couple of months, is public opinion polling. Okay, 28% of the people are, 52% of the people are going to vote Democrat, 47% of the people are going to vote Republican. Okay, that's all great, all right? But remember, public opinion is not a fact. It's just a statement of a mass opinion, or the opinion of a small group of people actually representing a larger population. When Gallup or Pew or one of the other polling companies say, Americans believe 42 to 58 about so-and-so, they usually only survey about 1,500 people to speak for 320 million. Okay? So be very careful about using public opinion polls. The last one we'll talk about is lay opinion. Okay? So if I started to get up and pontificate, or you wanted to quote me about Civil War, I'm a Civil War historian. I don't get paid for it. I don't have any, I have some history training in college, but I am a lay historian. I'm not and the term comes from lay ministers. There's ordained ministers, and then there's members of the congregation that are also sometimes asked to preach. Okay? Lay opinion is someone who isn't a certified expert, but is knowledgeable on the topic and speaks well on the topic. Okay, so you have opinions of experts, of the public, and of lay testimony. The next is going to be statistics. All right, statistics. You know what they say, okay? There's lies, damn lies, and then there's statistics. Be very careful about using statistics. Here's why. If I was to tell you 62% of the people 42% of the time are going to do things 13% the same way, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about anymore. Okay? So be very careful when you use statistics. First of all, use the measures correctly. Okay? If you don't know the difference between an average, a mean, and a median, you need to find out before you start quoting the statistics. All right, those all three mean separate things. All right, second thing I need you to do, cite the sources of your statistics. This is the same thing over and over again. Is it the Bureau of the Census? Is it the Department of Labor? Is it your buddy Bob who lives next door? You need to let us know where you get the statistics from. Round off. All right, round off. And here's what I mean about round off without losing accuracy. Okay? 62% is not 75. Okay? 62% is 60. That's an accurate round off. 65% is not. 62% can be, 62.8% can be rounded up to 63. But if you round up to 65, you're beginning to get a little weaker. Okay? And it's certainly 62. And I have had caught students doing this. Well, it really said 62.8%, so I rounded that to 65. But 65 rounds to 70, so 62.8% equals 70. It does not. Okay? Round accurately. All right? The last thing we're going to talk about, we'll stick it over here on the, well, we'll go down here on the bottom. Factual data. This is information that is observable, you know, we would call it ground truth. You can't even see it. Let me tilt it down a little bit. Factual data. Okay, you've got opinions, statistics, factual data. Factual data right there at the bottom. Factual data. Okay? Factual data is the simplest statement of things that can be verified. Okay? The boiling point of water is 212 degrees. The freezing point of water is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? Those things can be proven. Okay? Water is made up of a hydrogen and two hydrogens and an oxygen atom. Those things can be proven. Okay? Donald Trump is a good president is an opinion. Cannot be proven as a fact. All right? President Obama was a good president. Opinion cannot be proven as a fact. Okay? All right, so our three sources are opinions, expert, public, and lay opinions, statistics. Use your measures correctly. Know the difference between a median, a mean, and an average. Cite your sources and round off where appropriate. Also, one thing let me throw in here. Be concrete. Convert your statistics to something meaningful. If you've got 20 people in the class, and I come in and I say 25% of people will die of cancer. Okay, 25%. Okay, but if I look around this room and I've got 20 people in there and I say, hey, statistically 25% of people in this country will die of cancer. Let me make that, put that in terms you can understand. 1 in 4 people in this class, or 1 in 5 people in this class are going to die from cancer. Suddenly that makes it very real. Okay, so focus on that. All right. So let's talk about sources of evidence. Where are you going to find the stuff you're going to quote? First source. You may be an expert. Your personal knowledge can be important. Okay? Personal knowledge. In fact, when you're giving your credentials, I strongly recommend you say, hey, listen, pick a topic to talk on that you're very smart about because you experienced it. All right? I'm familiar with diabetes because my mother has diabetes. I have whatever. Okay? You will need to be able to, if you've done research, you're going to be able to talk about the research you did in detail to prove your credibility. Okay, and you're also, and this is one thing that a lot of people find tough, is you're going to want to speak very specifically about your credibility on the topic. Okay, don't just pretend. You have to speak very credibly on your knowledge and background. So it may sound like you're bragging about yourself. That's perfectly okay. Okay. There's primary research. Now, primary research are things, lights, hold on a second. Primary research is when you go out and do either scientific experiments on your own, okay? Such as, to verify the boiling point of water, I boiled water and found out it boiled at 212 degrees. I did this 5 times. That's primary research, okay? Text message popped up on my phone that I looked at real quick, okay? You can also do interviews. That's primary research. If you're talking about a criminal justice issue and you want to go interview the sheriff of Aiken County, primary research, outstanding. And in your speeches, if I hear you've done a research, primary research, I like that. Interviews, good, okay? You can do an original document examination. So if you're talking about George Washington, and you go back and you find George Washington's original journals and read them, that's primary research. Okay? And then you can do surveys. If you're going to say that 62% of the students in Aiken Technical College believe X, you can actually go out and do that research. That's primary research. Primary research is primo. It's good. We like primary research. The second thing is secondary research. Okay? Secondary research involves reading some research that somebody else did or the experiences of somebody else. Okay? Let's take it for instance. 2 days ago was the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. You may be able to find some journals, but you are not going to ever do an interview with a World War I veteran anymore. They're all gone. They've all died. So if you want personal face-to-face experiences, if you want personal experiences about what they went through, you're going to have to go with secondary research. Okay? A lot of us, I'm not going to do any primary research on nuclear power. Does that mean I can't speak about nuclear power? No, I would need to go to secondary research. Secondary research can be found in places like encyclopedia, in books. And does everybody remember what an encyclopedia is? It's like the internet in a bunch of books. Okay, an encyclopedia can be found in books, articles from respectable publications. Okay, don't know what your political leanings are, but Breitbart, InfoWars, not going to be a good source. They've got the same things on the other side of the political spectrum. Make sure it's a credible source. Okay. Newspapers, statistical sources, like we've already mentioned, the U.S. Census Bureau, websites, but make sure they're reputable websites. We talk, like don't come in here with Breitbart, don't come in here with the Weekly World News, things along those lines. And then government documents. Okay? Last couple of things, and this is going to be a really short lecture. Okay, a couple of guidelines. Variety. If you come in here and hit us over the head for 20 minutes with a bunch of statistics, what you're going to see is a bunch of people just doing this. Okay? Use a variety. Use some personal experiences. Use some primary research. Use some secondary sources. Use statistics. Use read accounts of somebody else. Okay? Use appropriate forms. Use appropriate forms of evidence. Okay? Narrative for one group may be great. Like if I'm talking to a group of nursing students or medical students, medical technology students here at Aiken Technical College, and I want to talk about improving healthcare in Aiken County, I may want to use a lot of narrative, a lot of storytelling. But if I'm talking to the county commission and I'm asking them to expend, $12 million to help build the new wing of a hospital, or build a new clinic at the hospital, I'm going to need to come in with a lot of statistics to tell the same story. They're going to want a lot better documentation. With groups that are less knowledgeable and less experienced on a topic, you can do a lot of secondary research and use a lot of secondary sources. With groups that are very intelligent on a subject and have a deep background, you're going to want to go with primary resources. Okay? Make sure your evidence is relevant. If I quote some statistics on the impact of a certain food on the health of people in Iceland, who's going to care? I don't live in Iceland. I live in Georgia. We live in South Carolina. Give me evidence about how it affects people in South Carolina. Excuse me. Make your evidence relevant to the audience. Okay? If you're talking to a group of Aiken Technical College students, generally, you remember doing audience analysis? We talked about audience analysis. Okay? Do your audience analysis. And if you find out your audience is going to be 18 to 24-year-olds, don't quote stuff on the impact of people in their 60s. Okay? I would listen to it, but I'm in my late 50s. 18 to 24-year-olds aren't going to care. So make sure your statistics are relevant. Okay? This is going to sound counterintuitive, but work with me. Don't use too much. Here's why. People are there to hear you speak, not to hear you recitate and just regurgitate evidence quote after quote after quote. Okay? Make sure that you don't use too much. Remember, evidence should support your ideas. They shouldn't be your ideas. Everybody understand what I'm saying there? If you don't, write me an email, okay? Make sure you understand exactly what I mean by don't use too much evidence. You should have just enough evidence to support your ideas, but the evidence shouldn't overrun your ideas. Last thing, most important, I'm going to write it in big letters, so hopefully you can see it. Don't manipulate your evidence. I'm probably going to run off the edge of the screen, but trust me, does it go all the way? Oh yeah, don't manipulate your evidence. Okay? If it says 50%, don't say 75. If it says 47%, don't say most. Okay? If it says 68%, don't say nearly all. Here's why. You'll get caught. Okay? I've been in a lot of speeches where somebody gets up and makes what we used to call in the military a wag, a wild ass guess. Okay, they'd wag about something and somebody else would jump up and go, hold on a minute. I've got statistics here that disprove that. You have to be ready for that. You have to be aware of that. Okay? All right, everybody understand? Okay, that's 21 minutes. All right, that's good. That's about what I wanted to do. Okay, now, I know I blow through some of these lectures really fast. That lecture would have probably taken about an hour and a half in the classroom. But in the classroom, people don't have a chance to rewind. Remember when we talked about communication, video, and speech is irreversible. You're lucky enough to be able to back up and rewind and see what I said over and over and over again. Okay? I will tell you this, and I'm going to emphasize this in the announcement I'm going to be sending out today. Your outlines are due for your informative speech tomorrow. 3 pieces of evidence. 3 pieces of evidence for your informative speech. Next week, or maybe even later on this week, I'm going to come back and talk to you about problem-solution speeches because that'll be coming up right around the corner. These things are going to get hit fast now. You're probably going to have about a speech a week, okay? I want you to make sure for the problem-solution and for your persuasive speech, you're going to need 4 pieces of evidence. Now, we're going to talk more probably in the next day or two if I get time to put the lecture down and get the lecture in tomorrow. I'll have another lecture posted for you tomorrow about problem-solution speeches. Don't forget outline. Well, I don't know when you're going to see this. Outlines may well have already been due, and you've already turned them in. So if you have any questions, again, the email is mcinnisv@etc.edu. Post it out in the discussion boards. I try to look at those every day or two. And until then, and I'll be coming back with you with more information on a whole bunch of things in this week and next week. And we will talk to you soon.